Hello, everybody. Welcome to the River Street Podcast. This is the River Street Podcast, episode 19. I'd like to thank you all for joining me tonight. I appreciate it. Your host, as always, Preston Olson. Hope you had a good weekend. It was enjoyable. You got to spend it with your family. You got to have a lot of fun. Hope Monday went well for you, the first day back to the grind for a lot of us. And I hope you had a good day this Tuesday. Now, first thing I'm going to get into is the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors, one of the hottest topics to talk about. I love the media the day after LeBron and the Cavaliers lose. They go nuts, bonkers, all wild style Bill on him and his teammates. Again, nobody's immune to losing in basketball. What I will say is if Golden State does win the next game, they will close this series out. If they can't win the next game, I have the Cavaliers in 7. The method behind my madness is at first I was wrong. The Warriors are so hyped, so amped, so mobilized by this rematch. They have the crowd behind them, and face it, the shots are falling. Newsflash. They already beat the Cavaliers. Steph, Draymond, and Clay all have a ring, as do Kyrie and Love. LeBron has 3. This is more like a rematch for Kevin Durant after getting blasted when he was back in OKC by LeBron in the finals, if you forgot. But not looking in the past. The point comes down to a longer series benefiting the Cavaliers. Here's why. The Cavaliers bench does not look comfortable taking shots. First, the 2 games at the Oracle Arena have gotten to them. Once they get home for this game 3, if the Cavs bench does not find its rhythm, it is over. However, I believe they will, and we will see who the finals hero is outside of the big 3s and 4s both teams have to offer. The next issue that comes to my mind is Twitter, of all things. The reason I want to talk about Twitter with you tonight is because to me, Twitter is failing, and it's failing very rapidly. I don't think Twitter will be around much longer unless it is saved. But who would save such a platform? Who would save such a platform that limits you on what you can say and limits what you do? Just remember, if Twitter's gone, Facebook and YouTube will become the monopolies that they really already are. Twitter kind of being that dark horse in the race is failing very fast. Would the Trump family buy Twitter if it was going to fail? Let that digest a little bit. Think about that, because to me, I wouldn't rule it out. Not one to speculate so much. Look at Trump's following on Twitter. He's one of the biggest people on Twitter, one of the biggest proprietors of Twitter. And all the other celebrities, public figures, businesses, so on and so forth, that use Twitter. But my question is, the biggest question, I should say, not the only question, but the biggest question, is if you save Twitter, whoever it may be, if anyone at all, for all we know, it could just crash and burn and it's gone. But if someone does save Twitter, what are you really saving? Because I know if you're not a celebrity or someone famous or a business, what purpose are you serving yourself on Twitter? Let that digest, let that sink in a little bit, because to me, Twitter is on its way out, and it's just waiting for someone to open the door. We're going to talk a little bit about the Paris Climate Agreement here. The reason I want to talk to you about the Paris Climate Agreement is because there's been much debate. The president being ridiculed by many in the media, many people, and to me it just doesn't seem fitting, because I'm all about constructive criticism and giving criticism where criticism is due, but not on this particular issue. You're looking at a agreement, okay? You're looking at an agreement that not only is it not a treaty, The other countries that are in this agreement, to me, are doing it for political standing. But to me, you're standing without a spine if you believe that America is going to hold up their end, which we are one of the most cleanest countries in the world. A study just came out today. I found it on MSN. So go check that out. Believe me, when you look into it and you see that we're already one of the cleanest nations in the world, and people want to crack down on coal and crack down on fracking, and they want to crack down on everything that's not a solar panel or a wind turbine. Don't forget the backbone of this country. That is the small businesses that are involved with a lot of our imports and exports, and the whole system is revolving around energy and what we have to offer. And once we're not able to fulfill our exports, we become very, very singular in our economy. That's not a good thing. The Paris Climate Agreement is a step backwards for the American economy. But I will raise this and say that, let me raise you this to anybody out there still denying it, because if you want to tell me Bill Nye the Science Guy and frickin' Al Gore are the ones who are going to tell me about climate change, you got another thing coming. The science does not back up this climate agreement. You don't believe me? Because you like to believe in your side of the argument and not hear the other side. I'm an individual who wants to hear both sides and make his mind up for himself. If you can't do that, then we have no business discussing anything or any business talking about anything together or with each other at all. Because to me, you have to be able to look at both sides of the fence and decide for yourself. There's going to be good and there's going to be bad in every situation. You have to find a happy medium. The happy medium here was that this was not a treaty. It was never ratified by the Senate. All treaties have to be ratified by the U.S. Senate. No questions, no way around that. This was not. If Obama cared this much about this, his first 2 years in office, Democratic House, Democratic Senate, where were you at? You were on the campaign trail. You were out promoting your ideas. You were out promoting your agenda. But you weren't working the agenda those first 2 years, which is what has cost the Democrat Party ever since then. I'm moving on. Secretary Shulkin's decision to modernize the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs is a touching one to me. We need to make as much as we can easier on the veterans and not harder. This is a modernized system that falls in line with other departments in the country that have already rolled into this. And you may be saying, okay, what is this? Basically, long story short, the decision to modernize the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs is going to give us a leg up in showing the world that we take care of our military members, that we take care of our military veterans. The people out there who are clamoring for cutting the military and cutting the military's budget, go ask any soldier how much he makes. Go ask any soldier how much they get to take home for their take-home pay. Then come back and tell me you still want to cut their budget. Then come back and tell me you still want to cut the U.S. military. Anytime someone talks about cutting the military, you're coming off as a communist. Remember that. You may not be a communist, but what you're putting out there is very communist-like. Be careful with that. It can be looked at and misconstrued in the wrong way by the wrong people, and that does nothing good for you. I believe that we have needed a top-down change at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, and we are getting that, and you are seeing it play out now. Stay tuned. Folks, I want to talk about the White Sox, and I want to talk about the Cubs. A little compare and contrast. I think the White Sox can take a lot of notes from what the Cubs are doing right now on their bounce back. What have they won? 7 games now in a row. As it stands, the Chicago Cubs are in a better position than they were 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, running a negative, which means they were under 500, which means they had a losing frickin' record. They don't look like the same Cubs team. They look more energized. They look more prepared to do battle. The White Sox need to take notes. The White Sox have the hitters. The pitching is there. The coaching is there. I'm trying to piece it all together. And, you know, just like in basketball, where no one's immune to having a bad game, baseball is the same way. No pitcher is immune to throwing a pitch that ends up to be a home run. That's just not the way the game is played. It's not the way the game works out. What I will say about the Chicago Cubs is I like the turnaround that they have gotten. And the Chicago White Sox are still battling. They're not completely out of it. There's a long season left. But if you don't turn it around in June, there is no October. There is no playoff. Not for the White Sox. They have to turn it around. This is going to be a big month to them. Big month for the White Sox. The Chicago Cubs are turning it around. We'll see how it progresses. I don't want to, boost any egos out there. I know there's a lot of Cubs fans out there. I don't want to boost any egos. What I will say is that they look good. They look sharp. But I'm very leery about teams that win a World Series the next season. And the Chicago Cubs coming off the World Series, I'm very leery about how they are going to pan out once the postseason comes, because there's no doubt in my mind they're going to make the playoffs. It will be a matter of, can they win in a series against a equally good team? And we also have to watch the trade deadline in baseball that is coming up. The White Sox, I believe, need help with pitching more than anything. Their offense has come alive this year. They've looked a lot sharper, especially when it's come to backing up their pitchers. But there's a long way to go, folks. We got to throw something in the junk file. Every week, something has to go in the junk file. Folks, this week on the River Street Podcast Junk File, I, Preston Olson, am putting one touch login into the junk file. Now, I have a very valid reason for this. There was a actual site called One Touch where you put your information in and you can use, basically, the name says it all, One Touch. You signed into everything. Here's the problem with that. Now, if someone wants your information, all they have to do is hack into One Touch. Well, guess what? They did. Thousands of people were affected. Thousands of people's information, highly classified information that people have, very private, was hacked into, sought after, and spread around like wildfire. There's no excuse for why anybody would put all of their information into a one-touch login. Doesn't make any sense to me. Separate it. Write your, you got to go old school. Write your password and your username on a note card or in a notebook because you think you're safe on your computer, putting it in your notepad or, oh, you're offline. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. If someone wants your information, if it's on a computer, if it's on a digital device, hackers can find a way to access it. Don't doubt it. Ask anybody that works with technology, they'll tell you the same thing. Folks, this week in the junk file, one touch login. I have a great hidden gem for everybody. This hidden gem is not too old. It's really not old at all. It's a great sitcom. And usually I'm not a big fan of sitcoms for the simple fact that most of them have that audience laughter in the background, and it's just like, I don't need to be told when to laugh. If it's funny, I laugh. If it's not funny, I wait till something funny happens to laugh. But this show, even beside that, that's actually probably the only downfall in my opinion, to this show. But other than that, the substance of the show and how urban this show is and true to life, it actually is, for being a sitcom, is a reality check to us all. This show is called Superior Donuts. And yes, folks, it takes place in Chicago. It is a sitcom about a white boss who hires his first employee that's not his wife, who is a young black male. And wow, this touches on so many levels that you have to watch it to really understand the true essence of this show and how well it's put together. There's a great supporting cast, great dialogue, wonderful scenes, well put together show. Very pleased, very happy. Ladies and gentlemen, the hidden gem of the week is Superior Donuts. Now we're coming to a close. I know it sucks. Preston's moving on to something else. But I will be back. Do not fret. I'm going to go and say this week on Thursday, because my Friday and my weekend is already booked. This week on Thursday, I will shoot a podcast. It will be in depth as always. Very good content, very good conversation, and me pushing topics. I always love to reach out and talk to people. If you have feedback, advice, any of the sort, bring it to me. Or if there's something you'd like me to talk about or maybe bring up a little bit more, I am open to it. My final thought of the week. It's a very simple one. We have a forecast for this week until Saturday that I have seen nothing but sun. Friday it'll be cloudy. There's no chance of precipitation that I've seen yet. So plan on it being a nice 70 to 80 degree week. I want everybody to do a solid, like the Facebook page, River Street Marketing. Check out the YouTube page, River Street Marketing YouTube. And last but not least, go to iTunes and subscribe to this podcast because that's a big help to me and I really appreciate it. I really do. I don't need proof. I'm not asking you to send me proof. None of that matters. And again, if you want to like the Facebook page, you don't have to follow it. That like means is what matters to me. That you took the time to like it. I really appreciate that. My final thought, enjoy these next 2 days. Okay? And Thursday night I'll be with you. We'll chop it up. It'll be a good time, but enjoy it. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your job. Ignore the noise. That is what I will leave you with. Ignore the noise. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining me, Preston Olson, on the River Street Podcast, episode 19. Have a great evening, and just like the hands of time, I'm turning it over to you. Good night, everybody.